episode 61. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Dr. Phil Finemore here, your host as always, bringing you another fantastic interview here as we keep rolling through the third month of 2022 here. And really excited about this one. This is as you all know, pretty much everything we've done on this podcast so far has been related to things that are very Maine, but have some health benefits thrown in there too. And this one's no different. And it might be the most Maine thing we've talked about. And as a native Mainer myself, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So I am joined this week by Scott Dunn. And Scott is currently the president of the Maine Maple Producers Association, which is representing more than 200 maple producers through the state. And he started making maple syrup in Vermont as a child with his parents over an open fire using his great-grandfather's buckets. In high school, he would help a neighbor gathering sap and boiling in his sugar house, and built his own sugar house in 2013, started boiling, and his family has now grown from 75 taps to currently 1,600. That's incredible. And they sell syrup to consumers as well as wholesale to retail stores and to restaurants. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the Maine Maple Weekend coming up on this coming weekend. When you're hearing this, it's this coming weekend coming up. You'll be as you're listening to this. So Scott, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate this.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more. First of all, tell us about your farm. You know, what's your company's name, and how has this grown so much for you and your family here in the recent years?
So what started as an idea, talking to one of my college buddies when we were ice fishing one day about how he was making syrup, I said, I can do that. So I went home right after ice fishing, went through the woods on my property, found what I had for maple trees. And like anything, it's about a balance at home. So I had to convince my wife that having a sugar house was a good idea. Mm-hmm. And part of that is I needed a place to put the four wheeler and we could make syrup. So it was a 2-for-1 deal that really allowed it to happen. And then, so we started in 2013, we built their sugar house, and we first boiled in 2014. And from that point, I caught the maple bug. And it's one of the most addicting things out there, that once you start making syrup, you want to make more, and you really get addicted to it. So we grew every year, and then we took a big leap and took on another piece of woods. And now we're over 1,600 taps. Our goal is always to make about 400 gallons of syrup, but we're playing the weather to get to that point. Maine's a very diverse state as far as the size of it, as well as where the population bases are. Southern Maine has more people, with house lots being worth more than wood lots. So it's a challenge to find trees in Southern Maine. But we tap mostly red maples, which the sugar content's not as high, but they give a great flavored syrup. And now Maple Sunday went from friends and family when we first boiled, and then now to have a few thousand people go through our sugar house on Maple Sunday weekend is a very real thing. Yeah,
and it's something that I've always looked forward to, mostly to break a little bit of spring fever that we all get this time of year. So right around now, the weather's getting maybe a little bit warmer, and we want to get outside a little bit more. So both from like a consumer perspective, enjoying this weekend that we have coming up here, but also from, maybe someone who wants to get into this as a hobby and can use this weekend to learn about how they can do that, or how they could even help get involved with a local place that's doing it. Talk to us a little bit about how it blends some of those things of sort of breaking the monotony of winter. Because I think some people think that you all just go, oh, it's getting warmer out, let's go tap some trees and have some syrup ready for this weekend when these people come to our sugar house. But talk to us a little bit about what that looks like almost from a year-round perspective, and how it gets you out there and enjoys our great outdoors here in Maine, beyond just leading up to this weekend and this time of year.
So for me, maple is pretty well about a 9 to 10 month endeavor where I'm working on it just about, every day during the week in one form or another. Little bit of summertime slow down, you get time to spend with the family. Fall, we're in the woods working on taps, putting miles on because we're checking lines, getting, squirrels like to eat our tubing, doing that type of thing. The real cold sets in, you slow down a little bit in the woods with the snow coming, but then come January, you start watching the 10-day forecast and looking to see when it's going to warm up. And that's kind of our intuition. At 10-day, you get a few day stretch, you'll start tapping trees. But that's because we've got so many taps to put in a short amount of time. So to have them ready really makes a difference. But we're also feeling, like you said, that weather's coming, that warm weather, a couple of warm days, it gets you moving to where you're outside and you can be in a sweatshirt again. It makes it easy to want to go outside. And really, we're going for a hike every day. We're in the woods, up and down the line. So to put on a few miles is a very real thing in the woods. But then as the weather really starts changing and it gets warm, the snow is melting, you can go out, you get the days, late March when you can be outside with a t-shirt on and you feel the warm breeze. Those really get people thinking spring and summer. And then comes Maple Sunday weekend. And if you get a good weekend, people come out because it's a chance to get out. We're really like the first outside event for the year after the winter time. So if you get that, if we get a, nice bluebird days, we're very busy, but it's because it's a chance to go out. The green grass is starting to show up a little bit at that point in Southern Maine. Northern Maine, they're still pretty cold. But those times, and then a lot of the sugar makers are doing tours where they explain how they make syrup, what goes into it, so that the consumers really can appreciate the effort that goes into that gallon of maple syrup or that quart that they're going to be looking at buying. And then they meet their farmer. And part of that is the farm to table mentality, where they look at these farmers and go, okay, I want his syrup because I know how he makes it. I know what he puts in for work. And he just told me everything about it. And I saw it made on the evaporator. My syrup could have come off that evaporator that day or the day before. So it really gives them the sense of community. And they bought into the producers, but the producers have also bought into them because they're putting the effort in, because maple producers have a true passion for their product and they love what they do. And honestly, Maple Weekend is our time to shine, but I can talk about maple syrup all day, every day. So Maple Weekend is my time to shine, that I can do it all day. And, I don't even eat lunch because I'm so busy and talking and giving tours.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're right. It really is, unless you ice fish, like you mentioned, this kind of, this whole bug you caught kind of sprung from an ice fishing conversation. Unless you're someone who goes out on the ice to fish, this really is the get out of the house, get out there in the open, fresh air, learn about something that's very unique to us here, and is a very big part of our culture and our local economy and things like that. And you and I were chatting a little bit before we started the podcast here about some of the even health related benefits compared to processed syrups out there that people might find on the shelf in their local stores. And I know you wanted to chat a little bit about that, because it's important for people to know that this is, aside from getting out and enjoying the fresh air for the first time this winter, and moving, there are definitely some health benefits from buying that locally sourced, locally made syrup. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So one interesting thing about maple syrup is that it varies from producer to producer what is going to be in your syrup for natural minerals and antioxidants, because it all depends on what the soils are in that particular sugar bush. So if you have a different soil composition in Southern Maine compared to Northern Maine, the minerals do vary slightly, and flavors will, because of that mineral content as well, and soil composition. So the big ones that are in maple syrup, that no matter where you get it from, manganese, zinc, calcium, potassium, iron, and magnesium, all natural minerals that the body really does need. And so to make maple syrup, the simple way we say it is, we remove water and we caramelize the sugars. So in the evaporation process, we just removing water with steam evaporation. And then we're caramelizing the sugars that's what creates the flavor of the syrup. And then we just bring it to a specific density that it works at. So it's minimal processing as far as, chemicals or different processes that, change the composition of the sugars. We're just caramelizing the sugars is all we do. So it really is the healthier alternative to sweeteners when people are trying to live the healthier lifestyle, that you can pick one that has great flavor to begin with. I mean, it's hard to beat how maple syrup tastes, but it also has natural minerals and antioxidants as well, that for people that are, have something going on, a cancer or something like that, every little bit helps these days. And when obviously the pandemic nightmare that's been going around, you take every little bit of an edge you can to try and beat it on the natural way, rather than having to take, over the counter or supplements. So, I mean, the closest comparison to maple syrup would be brown sugar. That's the next one down that has, similar but far less, natural minerals. So honey is in the neighborhood a little bit, but maple syrup definitely carries more than all the others.
Well, and that's a big thing. I'm glad you brought up the honey, because I know that's sort of a local natural resource that people include in ways to have something that's maybe sweet and feels like it's not necessarily something that's super healthy for you, but because of all of the benefits it gives you from maybe an allergen standpoint or whatever the case might be. I know there's a lot of different stuff out there about it, but it's very interesting that some of these minerals and things and antioxidants that we need to keep our immune system strong and fuel our body are actually higher in the maple syrup than they even are in the honey. That's great.
Right. And you mentioned the allergen. That is one of our greatest concerns as producers, is the allergen piece, because, obviously there is one with bees, but all the other, they call them, I think it's the big six or big eight, milk, fish, all that. Our producers take great care to make sure that we're keeping all of those away, because they really do matter. So maple syrup is a very clean, very safe commodity, just simply because of what it is. It's so high in sugar. So it's hard for it to have, problems as far as shelf stability. It's very safe for the long term, but the producers are very concerned about allergens and all of that. And honey being the next one, a lot of people do have bee allergies, which can play through the honey a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And the other thing around the health aspects of this, because corn syrup in general has been a big, like high fructose corn syrup, and corn syrup has been kind of a big hot topic over the past, 10, 15 years or so in the dietary and nutrition world. And there's a whole bunch of information. If anyone hearing this is unaware of how it changes the way that our body stores sugar as fat and things like that, by all means, go take a look at it, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff. But you were talking a little bit about how some of those companies that put out more of a corn syrup product, but make it look like a maple product, can be pretty deceiving. And the best way to make sure you're getting pure maple syrup is to go to your local sugar house and enjoy this weekend we have coming up here and get some maple. So tell a little bit about that, so that if people are out in the stores in a time of year where some of this stuff is not as easy to get their hands on, what they might need to look for to make sure they're getting the health benefits of a more pure maple syrup like what you produce.
Yeah. So going to your local producer, that's the best way to get syrup that, hasn't been adulterated. It's our producers are, the amount of pride that they have in their product. They're not playing that game because they love their product so much. When you do go to the grocery store, it is one of those things to pay attention to. They call them different things that are deceiving, whether it's a table syrup or a pancake syrup. Generally, the table syrups are in odd shaped bottles, generally clear, and those are generally just maple flavor with no maple syrup at all. And they are primarily corn syrup based. Then they'll have a pancake syrup. It's in a similar bottle sometimes to a maple syrup bottle that people are traditionally used to seeing on the shelves. So it is it is important to spin that bottle around and look at it and make sure that it says either 100% pure maple syrup, or it doesn't say, blended syrup, corn syrup, maple syrup blend, because those are definitely out there these days, and they're in similar proximity to each other on the store shelves. Not every store does carry those blended syrups, just because it is kind of a sticky situation, so to speak, of not wanting to confuse consumers. But to look at the back of that bottle of maple syrup, see where it's from. Obviously, I'm partial to Maine maple syrup, even being from Vermont. Everyone makes great syrup, but I like that the pride and passion that our Maine producers put into it, and strive for quality. But knowing that, but going to your local producer helps them the most in buying farm direct, and get to know your producer, enjoy their story. I've got friends of ours that they bring syrup home and their kids won't eat it because it's not from us. They say, nope, we only eat Dunn Family maple syrup. Yeah. And it's fun to hear those stories, how, I can even connect with young kids that because they're into it. And it's because of Maple Sunday that they've really been drawn to it.
Sure. That's great. I think that's really important to know, because as someone who wants to support local, I mean, that's the best way to go. But knowing that information is out there and that people can easily figure out where to get that information. And I'm sure anyone, even if they don't necessarily live close by to a farm or local producer, which is kind of hard to believe because it's a very big industry all over the state now. But if you don't, even reaching out to someone like yourself or the association to answer some of those questions, I think is a great resource for people, for sure. So heading into this coming up weekend here, the Maine Maple Weekend, tell people a little bit more. We've already talked about how the events usually run, but tell people a little bit more about maybe where they can find more information about it, what an event at their local farm might look like, and maybe what you at your farm, at Dunn Family Farm, have planned for your Maple Weekend.
So mainemapleproducers.com/Maple Sunday gives a complete list of every producer that's participating in Maple Sunday events.
Awesome.
And producers vary their hours and the days that they're open. It's very much producer specific. So if you're going to go out, check that, make sure that the producer you want to go and see is going to be open and what hours. Some producers only do Maple Sunday, some do Saturday and Sunday. So before you get there and they're closed, just check that. But they're going to have a listing on that map that shows where they are, hours that they're open, and what they have going there. So a lot of producers have the evaporators are running. They're able to explain how syrup is made, products for sale, different maple products that you may not have heard of. Maple pie is one of my personal favorites. Maple candies, anything that people can add maple to, they'll do it. I mean, maple coated popcorn, another instant classic.
Yeah.
This year, the association, actually it started 2 years ago at the start of the pandemic. Wyman's of Maine, Wild Maine Blueberries, had reached out, and they were willing to work with our association and our producers to support them to have Wild Maine blueberry pancakes at the pancake breakfast that some of our producers were going to be hosting.
Oh, wow.
Then COVID came in, and COVID ruins everything.
Sure.
So that went away. We are able to do that because a lot of producers are planning on doing pancake breakfasts again. So Wild Maine blueberry pancakes with Wyman's of Maine blueberries are going to be available at some producers' pancake breakfast. That's another one that you're going to want to check up on to see if they have the pancake breakfast or if they have the blueberry pancake breakfast. Our farm, we're open both days from 9 to 4. Tours, start to finish explanation of how we make syrup, all the way from the woods and what we do in the woods, why we do it, all the way through how we process the sap into maple syrup in the sugar house. We have the blueberry pancake breakfast with Wyman's of Maine wild blueberries. We have a maple mini donut machine that we use. All the maple products for sale that you can think of, we have them, as well as lots of syrup in different shaped bottles and stuff like that. It's really looking to be a great weekend. I'm looking forward to it, as much stress as it brings me.
Yeah, it's a good kind of stress, right, Scott? That's the kind of stress that gets you up and gets you going in the morning, right?
Yeah, it gets me up about 4:30 on Maple weekend.
Yeah. 5 hours. Everyone listening, this guy right here is putting in almost 5 hours of work before you even show up to have your Wyman's of Maine blueberry pancake with Maine made maple syrup on it. So that's fantastic. So give people the dates again and the website they can go to check their local farm, just so everyone knows where they can get that info and where they can go visit their local sugar houses.
Yep. So March 26th and 27th, go to mainemapleproducers.com/Maple Sunday. That'll give you a map as well as listings for all the producers. Hours do vary in days of operation. So whether you're going to see your favorite local producer that you see every year, or you want to make a day of it and go and see different sugar houses, every sugar house has something different and unique to offer. So don't hold yourself back. I know the lines can get long at sugar houses. It's a little bit of a walk, but if it's a nice day, the walk is totally worth it because you'll learn something. And no two sugar houses are alike, and no two farmers are alike. They've all got a different personality, and sugar makers and farmers, they can be a lot of fun to talk to just sit back and listen. And the stories that they can tell are pretty fun.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I encourage everyone to get out there, go take a look at the website there, find your local spot, go support these very hardworking farmers and sugar house operators. They are working a lot to get this great product out to you. And it was so great to learn a little bit more of the health benefits behind a really good locally sourced product like Maine maple syrup, and get out there and enjoy, hopefully, fingers crossed, some really good spring weather, that first outdoor event of the year. Blueberry pancakes, whoopie pies, maple syrup. It doesn't get more Maine than that, everybody. So get out there, enjoy the weather, and help support some of these local producers. Scott, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I really enjoyed learning more about this, and I live not far from you, so I might see you this coming weekend.
I'll be there.
All right, great. When you're running around, I'll wave and say, hey. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Scott. Thanks again so much. I really appreciate you doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And everybody, please go out. All that information that we just talked about with Scott is in the show notes. So please go out, support those local farmers, and enjoy this upcoming weekend outside. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. We're back here every week on Wednesdays, providing interviews and great information just like this to help you strengthen your true purpose in life. Thanks for listening, everybody, and go make it a great week.